General Secretary Daniel Duki, Chairman of this evening's proceedings. Chairman of the People's National Movement, Mr. Franklin Khan. Deputy Political Leader, Party on Elections, Mrs. Joan Yule Williams. Deputy Political Leader, Policy, Mr. Rohan Sinanan. Deputy Political Leader, Legislative, Ms. Marlene MacDonald. My fellow parliamentarians, former members of the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago, Member of Parliament for Point Fortin, Mrs. Paula Gopi-Schoon, Member of Parliament for Labre, Mr. Fitzgerald Jeffrey, my neighbor from Diego Martin Central, Dr. Amory Brown, senators, and I have made the same mistake that my colleague made in not acknowledging first, as the protocol demands, the chief citizen of Point Fortin, Mayor of Point Fortin, Mr. Clyde Paul. Trouble is, you don't want to make too many of those, right? Ladies and gentlemen of Point Fortin, visitors, members of the media, members of the protective services, fellow citizens listening at home on 95.5 and 91.9. This evening, the P.N.M is out here in good weather, continuing our duty as the opposition of Trinidad and Tobago in interacting with the people by coming to you to educate you, to inform you, to alert you, and to exhort you to take responsibility for Trinidad and Tobago. We have made it quite clear that the P.N.M doesn't see its service in the country as a 100-yard dash, and that's the end of the race. We see it more as a marathon. We're in for the long haul. And during that long haul, sometimes we're in government, and sometimes we're out. But most times we are in the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And as a result of that, this country has developed like no other country in the Caribbean. We, this P.N.M, started out under colonialism. Our leader had a great vision, not just for Trinidad and Tobago, but for the region. A vision of federalism. That didn't work out, so we went to independence, and then we became a republic. And during that period, our children, and some of us of my age, and a little younger, came to understand that it's important that the government of Trinidad and Tobago, when in office, be in charge of the affairs of Trinidad and Tobago. And those persons who have office as government, they have a responsibility to so conduct themselves so that the people who they govern will have some trust in what they do and what they say. Because in the absence of that trust, all hell breaks loose in the country. And there is no way of judging trust than being able to believe what is being said to you. Tonight, I have come here to Point Fortin to tell you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, that I take no pleasure in confirming to you that you must not believe anything the government of Trinidad and Tobago say to you. Hell of a state of affairs. You can believe nothing that is said to you by the government of Trinidad and Tobago. And by government here, I'm not talking just about the Prime Minister and the Attorney General and National Security. I'm talking about public servants who they put to speak for them too. Because now that they have poisoned their own record, they are now quite happy to get public servants to lie to you as well. But it's not just untruths. It's a demonstration of dangerous incompetence. It was Chuck, that's who sang a Calypso saying that this country, in the Calypso arena, there were those who were promoting themselves. I think it was Chuck this. And he spoke about Calypso falling into the hands of quacks and invalids. Well, I can tell you, the government of Trinidad and Tobago is in the hands of quacks, invalids, incompetents, and liars. And as a result of that, our quality of life is in grave danger of deteriorating, and deteriorating very substantially in the not too distant future. When we lost the election in 2010, we moved into the opposition with our 12 seats. We got a good licking, and we know what licking is because we share it sometimes. We moved into the opposition temporarily, set about doing our work, preparing for government, and set about to support the government of Trinidad and Tobago to do what is right for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And we made it quite clear. Whatever the government comes up with, that's in the best interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, we, this P.N.M opposition, will support. But if in our judgment and on the best advice available to us, what the government is doing or proposes to do, if it is deemed to be against the best interests of the people of Trinidad and Tobago, under no circumstances will we support it. That's how it is. And on that basis, we move forward to support our government budget. We worked in committee with the government on legislation. We gave the government open and free advice, and sometimes we give them quiet advice on the side not to embarrass them. You wouldn't think we'd do that, would we? And at the end of the day, no government is required to follow slavishly what a previous government did. But there's a requirement for every government to put the country's interests first. I want you, the people of Point Fortin and surroundings, and the people of Trinidad and Tobago, to understand tonight that the standard of living that we enjoy, whatever your station in this country, whether you are a successful businessman, a well-paid professional, a man who's on pension and doing well, enjoying your retirement, somebody catching hell in what the youngsters call the ghetto, wherever you are in Trinidad and Tobago tonight, the quality of life that you enjoy is a quality of life that can only be supported if the economy of this country performs as it has been performing before you got that quality of life. If things change with the economy, then wherever you are in the totem pole, things will get worse for you. As a businessman, you will not get work. As an employed person, you could lose your job. As a person looking for a job just out of school, you will not get one. As a person starving in the ghetto, you will half starve in the ghetto. That's how it's going to be if the economy cannot pay the bills. And how are our bills paid in this country? Largely because we have an energy sector which is profitable, produces goods and services, mainly goods, which the outside world buys and pays a good price for. We are an industrialized nation. Point Lisas, even though it was a bad thing when it was being done by the P.N.M, it's our heartbeat. The energy sector, oil and gas, pays the bills to allow us to live the way we are living now. A new government comes into office by talking every single thing and every situation and every person that was in office before June 2010. Holding out to you the hope, the promise, and the expectation that the least they could do is at least as good as what the last government was doing. They believe that it all ended on June 2010. 29 seats, and they've come to inherit. What in effect you got is a batch of never see come see who come to enjoy themselves and to put you in danger. Put you in danger. So if you had listened to our meeting in Tunapuna High-Low Car Park in St. Augustine, Tunapuna constituency last Tuesday, you would have heard the very troublesome facts which so far have gone undisputed. Because when you get facts on the P.N.M platform or from a P.N.M spokesperson in Parliament, one thing is standard. It is never disputed by any truthful response. They pretend that it wasn't said, it wasn't heard. MP for Diego Martin East last week told the country that the record shows that under this government, today's condition is that our oil production has fallen from 100,000 barrels a day to 80,000 barrels a day. Notwithstanding all the PR and the carrying on and you never see come see and the old talk, the end result is oil production has declined by 20%. Gas production up and down many times. Plants in Point Lisas can't operate as they should because the gas isn't available for one reason or the other. And more troublesome, the manufacturing sector has shown that our CARICOM trade has declined by over 25% in the last year. Read that into jobs. Because CARICOM trade is where a lot of jobs are. In the energy sector, that's where the money comes from, but the employment numbers are lower. And while that is going on, you had a Minister of Finance who was telling you all along, everything is fine. We have growth, we have growth, we have growth. But when the governor of the central bank says, I can't take this no more, we're in recession, they took public issue with the governor of the central bank. Remember that story? Because the governor told you the truth. And every time we have a budget, we've had 3 of them so far from this government. Every time there's a budget, they come and they hold out to you the prospect of improvement in our economic circumstance. Foreign investment coming to build this plant and that plant and the other plant. That is good if they're planning to execute it. I was a member of something called the Energy Subcommittee of the Cabinet under the P.N.M. By virtue of being Minister of Planning and Development, I was put on that committee. And by virtue of being an experienced member of the cabinet, I was kept on that committee until I eventually was fired. But all the time I was on the committee,